Hi guys, welcome to Strength Reversed. My name is Amy. Thank you for joining me. There was a beautiful hawk circling the lake here, and so I'm glad it's joining me too. I wish you could see it. It was really pretty. Today is my third and possibly final installment in my Tarot Boundaries mini-series. I didn't mean to make a mini-series, but I found that I had a few videos worth of things to say about boundaries. And today I'm going to talk about something that has been rattling around in my head for several months. And I wrote down 3 statements. These are things that I've been thinking about for quite a while, and I wanted to make a video about how New Age fundamentalism can erode our boundaries if we don't really examine some of the very subtle ideas that I've encountered over and over again. Now, I encounter these ideas in spiritual arenas, or maybe, for lack of a better term, I'll say New Age. On my Instagram, I really only have other accounts that I follow that are related to tarot, to spirituality, and things like that. And many of the people on there are Wiccan or pagan or have religious beliefs along those lines. And I am not any religion, but I do incorporate anything that works for me into my spiritual practice. But I think there are some fundamentalist ideas. I don't like the term New Age, but that's the only umbrella term that I can come up with. And I find a lot of these ideas recur over and over, and they can be very damaging, and they can really erode some of our boundaries when we second guess ourselves. I think it's so important for us to examine these statements and find what we really want to say and what they really mean, because I think they've become a little bit cliche. They've become, you know, platitudes. They really sometimes, I don't think, mean much anymore. And if we try to hold ourselves to certain standards, we can possibly second guess what's good for us, what we know to be good for us, and that causes us to weaken boundaries. What brought these to my mind recently was several Instagram posts that I've seen where that I thought had this undertone of New Age fundamentalism. One of them is 2 little girls. One of them's puking in the toilet and the other one's holding her hair. And the one puking in the toilet is labeled as someone who is just waking up. And the one who's holding her hair and helping her is labeled as those of us who are already woke. Don't get me started on that word. But, you know, as if some people get it and some people just haven't arrived to where we are yet. Another one was something to the effect of when people say that witchcraft is evil or dark, they just can't handle your light. And that I have a problem with, but the constant subtle message that some people get it and some people don't, that people who don't believe certain ways just haven't woken up, or they haven't achieved a certain level, or they're not where you are yet, or they somehow just don't get it and don't understand and are missing the boat, is New Age fundamentalism. This, you know, story about how someone who doesn't understand you or understand your beliefs, that they just can't handle it. It's like when a guy never calls you again and your girlfriend goes, he's just intimidated by you. Or, you know, maybe he's just not that into you, is probably the the truth. But it's so almost condescending, you know, you just can't wrap your mind around, you know, what I believe. You just, you know, if you understood, you'd believe it too. It's that, that message. And I'm sure the people who posted these did not intend that in any way. So those posts got me really fired up to make this video. I tried to make it yesterday and it was a lot of editing and the light kind of faded as I made the video and I wasn't feeling it, but I pulled some tarot cards as I sat with these ideas yesterday, and I used my Light Seers deck, which I don't have with me today. So I just pulled the same cards from my purse deck. And as I talked about this idea of New Age fundamentalism and boundaries, I pulled the Sun reversed. And these ideas, these, you know, concepts, when taken, when they're out of balance, or when they're not examined, or when they're taken to mean something that they really probably don't mean, don't give us the big picture. And it really limits the scope of our vision, I think. It prevents us from really honoring ourselves and being content with ourselves, because we are constantly second guessing. The first one of these beliefs is the idea that we have to accept everyone. Now, on the surface, it's probably, you know, I know what people mean by this. They mean we probably should respect people, or we probably shouldn't be quick to dismiss people. We should make an effort to understand someone else's experience and maybe understand where they're coming from and accept differences. Not everyone has to be like us or believe the same things that we do, that everyone's experience is valid. But sometimes when this gets a little bit out of whack and we have this constant message that we give ourselves about having to accept everyone, it causes us to maybe accept people or accept actions or beliefs that are not acceptable. Not everyone is acceptable. Not everyone's actions are acceptable. And we don't have to keep that person in our little corner of reality just in the name of acceptance. Things have come up in the Tarot Tube community where not nice things were posted in people's comments, and the community in general said, we do not accept that. That is not acceptable to us. And it's when we just keep saying you have to accept everyone, it can lead to not really trusting that feeling. You know, when I have that feeling, when someone, you know, that feeling you get and you're not really sure why, you don't really know this person, but they just creep you out. I trust that feeling. And I'm not going to stick around that person just because I don't want to not be accepting. The card I pulled for this was the King of Cups. And in the Light Seers, he has this light radiating from his heart center. And the King of Cups is, of course, very confident and in touch with his emotions and his intuition and, you know, that inner knowing. And he is not all the way in the water, you see. So he is very grounded, and he is not those things, he's not drowning in his emotions. He has clear boundaries, and he's not going, the hawk just flew by and landed in the tree. He's not going to do things that are bad for him, and he's not going to let his emotions rule him. He knows what's good for him, and he can set those clear boundaries. The second idea is that we're not allowed to be judgmental. And on the surface, of course, it's good not to prejudge people or assume things about people or jump to conclusions or project our own stuff onto others and you know, define them as something that they're not based on without really knowing them. We're allowed to use our judgment, and we're allowed to come to conclusions based on our experiences. If you have good judgment, apply liberally. We make judgments all the time, and sometimes they really keep us safe and protect us. One problem with this statement is that we're not allowed to judge, is that I think it's something that sometimes people say you're being judgmental, and it's a way to dismiss or shut down opinions that they don't want to deal with. I will give you an example. I read for a summer for one of the free tarot reading websites. And I thought of making a video for this about my experience. It was by and large a positive experience, but there was a closed Facebook group for the free readers where readers would post things like, how should I go about this? Or can someone take this reading? Or they would have questions and just talk about tarot reading. And I got a question from someone that was that said, when is my boyfriend going to leave his wife? And she went into details, and the wife was sick and blah, blah, blah. And I just don't like questions like that. I don't feel that, you know, in a free reading kind of forum, you're going to get questions that aren't the deepest. You're going to get questions like that because it's free. You know, people tend to not value what's free. So you'll get all kinds of just limited questions like that. And I posted, I don't like these questions because I don't feel that they're very productive. I don't feel that they give you much useful information. Now, I did not make any sort of judgment about this person, about whether she's a good or bad person, about whether I think the situation is right or wrong. Honestly, I don't care, you know, who you're boning. If you're gonna bone some woman's husband, that's between the three of you. You're all adults, you know, whatever. I don't really care. I kind of just felt like, don't drag me into this. But I did the reading for her, and it wasn't what I expected in the cards, but whatever. I wanted to ask, why is it okay with you for you to invest yourself in someone who cannot be fully present and who can't reach, you know, give you as much energy? But that's not what she was asking. But people on this forum immediately just pounced. You're judgmental. You're being judgmental. And they didn't want to deal with what I was really saying, which was readings like this aren't really useful. It's, you know, because the querent's not really dealing with the real issue. And they didn't want to hear it. You're being judgmental, you're judgmental, blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of ironic because the people who were flapping their jaws the loudest about how judgmental I was were really the ones being judgmental. But, you know, it kind of made me second guess myself. Like, am I being judgmental? I don't think I am. I'm not making a judgment about the kind of person that this woman is, but they didn't want to deal with it. Some people got really bent out of shape, and you know, the thing is, expressing an opinion is not being judgmental. I have valid reasons for my opinion. I'm not being judgmental in a negative way. Now, is it good to maybe try to to be open-minded, or to try to put yourself into someone else's shoes? Of course. But sometimes saying you're not allowed to be judgmental is really just a way to make people shut up and quit sharing their opinion. It's just a way to shut down an opinion that you don't like. The card I pulled about this was the Six of Wands. And at first I didn't really make the connection with the Six of Wands and judgment. But, you know, when you are successful or you achieve something, there has to be some element of trusting yourself and trusting your judgment and trusting your experiences. You know, I've had a really horrible experience with someone who was part of my extended family, my family by marriage, and I didn't really realize until afterward what had been going on and the negative patterns that were happening. But a couple of years later, someone else came into my life and I noticed those same patterns, and I just, you know, I made a different decision. And I don't think that was me being judgmental or not accepting. It was just me making a decision based on past experiences that didn't work for me. Boundaries. The last idea that I want to talk about is the idea that it is not spiritual to be negative. Now, I am speaking as a born pessimist, okay? I just came out that way. If you've ever seen Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, I'm Heather Mooney. And if you haven't seen that movie, run to Netflix and look up that movie because it's fantastic. The hawk just flew right over. So this idea that positive is somehow more spiritual than negative really, I think, can make us doubt ourselves. It's almost like this form of gaslighting, right? We know something to be true for ourselves, and while it's really useful to be introspective and to maybe question or reflect on why we feel a certain way, doubting ourselves is not always as useful. So I've gotten a lot of flack in my life about not being positive, and here's the card I pulled. It is Judgment reversed. I didn't get that about the Judgment one, but Judgment reversed. Now, Judgment is a card of change, and it is change that happens because you've decided, you've made a choice based on your experiences. You've decided, you've become a little more enlightened. It's almost like a level up in your own life. So you're making a decision and making a choice and choosing a new path. When we do not, when we try to stuff or keep away emotions that are considered negative, like anger or jealousy or guilt, then we're not really embracing the full, every aspect of our experience. There are some parts that we're denying ourselves. Those emotions are only negative if we deal with them in negative ways or don't deal with them at all. But I think this notion that we always have to be like love and light and namaste and all of that is just absolute bullshit. And if we don't handle those emotions and process them, then we might make a snippy remark to the older gentleman in line in front of us at the deli who keeps telling us to smile. No names. Now, I am certainly not saying that anyone who makes these statements is being a New Age fundamentalist at all. I know that there are good intentions behind these ideas, and sometimes they're true, but I think it's worth examining what we really mean when we say this, because sometimes there is a very subtle charge that comes with them when we say you're being judgmental, or when you hear that you have to accept everyone, because that, if you try to hold yourself to the standard of accepting everyone, that's not really realistic. I think we need to be specific about what we really mean when we talk about acceptance and judgment, and to not hold ourselves to false standards, because those really chip away at our boundaries when we constantly try to push out that little voice that says, I don't like that, or I'm not comfortable. Of course, those feelings are worth examining, because sometimes it is resistance, or sometimes it is projection onto someone, projecting something onto someone that is not really about them. And of course, that is not the truth either. So we have to, I think, be mindful that sometimes these expressions can come with a subtle meaning that is not good for us. Okay. So anyway, please make sure to like or subscribe. I'd love to hear your views about boundaries or about New Age fundamentalism, if you've encountered it or not. I also, speaking of subscribing, check out my friend Jason's new YouTube channel. I'm super excited. He goes by Readings with Jason, and he has he's my Instagram friend, and he's the one who gifted me my Lightseers deck. And I'm super excited that he has a YouTube channel now. He has a couple of really good videos, so check those out. Readings with Jason. I will link him below. And thank you guys for watching this. Bye.